Again, this is a continuation of my series on learning how to sew, where I go over specific sewing techniques that you will learn, and by the end of each lesson, you'll know a new technique that you can apply to any sewing project, and these techniques can help you take your sewing to the next level and learn the basics. So in the previous ones, we went over a plain seam, basting, and top stitching. So in this series, or in this lesson, I'm going to go over edge stitching. Again, each lesson I'll provide a little graphical sketch notes that I made, and you can follow along and make your own notes. Take anything you learned from the video and just jot it down or draw little diagrams for yourself. And you'll need sample fabric to follow along with me. All right, so without further ado, let's go over edge stitching. So edge stitching, what is that? Edge stitching is a stitch that you can place along the edge of a seam, very close, about 1/8 of an inch. And this adds a decorative design detail to your garments, or it can add stability. So you'll see this on pockets, on collars, you might see it on waistbands, on jeans, you might see it on straps of bags. So let's look at a few samples again, like we did before. So this is just a basic canvas little tote bag here. And if you look closely at the straps, you'll see there are edge stitches along both ends of the strap, all the way along that strap. And then if I look even closer, you'll see even along this band on the top of the bag, there's some edge stitching on both ends of this. Okay, let's look at some pockets here. I've got a pair of jeans again. We went over the top stitching, which is this stitching here, and then above that is the edge. The stitches on the edge, these are edge stitches. Again, you have edge stitches, so this is your fold where your seam is. That's right along that edge as close as possible. And I'm going to go over in the sample how you can get this accurately to be that close to the edge without having to measure. And let's see, so you can look at the waistband. I see some edge stitching there. You can look at the button fly also. There is an edge stitch along here, down here. Again, this adds stability, and they've used, which is very common in jeans, they use this gold thread to add a little contrast, and it adds a design detail to jeans. And then finally, we've got collars. So here I've got a leather jacket, and if you look at the collar, you'll see there are edge stitches along this collar, even all the way down the lapel. All right, so again, I encourage you guys to learn from your closet. Go into your closet or your family members, anything you can observe or analyze, even if you're out shopping. Look at the clothes and identify some of these techniques that you're learning. Start looking for these things and see if you can identify them when they're applied and understand how they're applied. All right. All right, so again, I'm just using this piece of fabric here. It's like a faux suede. For these samples, you want to use woven fabric, meaning it's not knit. So woven fabrics don't stretch. If I pull in either directions, there's no stretch. There might be a little stretch if I pull on the diagonal this way, but there's no stretch pulling vertically or horizontally. All right, once you've cut your fabric, place your two pieces with the right sides facing again, these two sides facing. Then I'm going to go to my sewing machine. I'm actually going to cut this edge off just because to me, I don't think that looks good. This is called the selvage edge of the fabric. That selvage edge is like very tightly woven, and we don't usually use this part of our fabric to make garments. We usually cut that away. We use it just to see where the grain line is. So I'm going to take that off. All right, so let's go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew a plain seam, which was the first lesson in the series. Add 5/8 seam allowance down this fabric, and we're going to back stitch at the beginning, and we're going to back stitch at the end. All right, now that I have pressed this, I wanted to show you guys that for top stitching, you can use a special thread, and it'll say, if you go to purchase them, it'll say top stitch on the thread. So this is specifically for top stitching. Unfortunately, mine is the same color as this fabric that I chose to do the sample on. You can use contrasting colors, whatever your heart desires to add your little design detail. But if you do use top stitch, you don't wind the bobbin with this. No, you leave the bobbin with regular thread, and then you only want thread your machine, the top thread with this. So I'm going to thread my machine. Once you've threaded your machine, we're ready to add our top stitch. So let's talk about how to make this stitch so it's right on the edge of the seam. Let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit so you guys can see. Now, if you look, what I'm trying to do here, so let's look at where this foot is. So this is the inside of this, the right side of my foot. The inside right there is lined up with the edge of the seam. So carefully, we do this slowly so that your stitching is beautiful and straight. Don't be in a hurry, just be patient. And you don't back stitch, you just stitch. And there you have it, guys. Hopefully you can see that. It looks really beautiful. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit, or we can go to better lighting so you guys can really see the stitching and how close it is to that seam line. And this thread is nice because it matches the fabric that I have, but I could also use a contrasting color. You don't have to use the same color. You get to choose when you're making your garments how you want it to look. Play with it. Be creative. All right, guys, so there is, well, you do always want to cut off any extra threads. Keep your samples nice and clean for your notebook. And there you have it. This is our beautiful edge stitch. We stitch with the right side of the fabric facing up. If I didn't already say that, just to make sure you guys understand that it's stitched with the right side up, because we put that thread, this color thread, on the machine, but not on the bobbin. So remember, if you're using special thread that's different from your bobbin thread that's specifically for edge stitching or top stitching, then you only thread the machine, but you don't thread the bobbin. So if you look at the back, my bobbin thread was this color. And then there's my top stitch. And this is a nice color on this fabric. All right, and I'm going to put this in my notebook, and I can use this as a reference when I want to look through my notebook and get ideas on, you know, I want to add design details. Am I adding pockets? Am I making a jacket where I want to add some top stitching on my collar? This is a really invaluable resource. I hope you guys do follow along and sew along with me, and I hope you can learn from these lessons and enjoy them. Again, let me know if you want these downloadable links for my sketch notes here that I've made, and I can make a link available in the description of the video. And I'll also go ahead and link the other lessons so you guys can go back and look at those if you haven't. And this wraps up our edge stitching. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel so I can continue making these. See you guys in the next video. Ciao.